It's hard to talk about and watch everything that's been going on in Israel and Palestine for a couple reasons. One being that there's so many lies going around, so much propaganda, the amount of photos that are going around. You don't really see it on TikTok. If you go on Twitter, you can see a lot of really horrific photos and footage that if you watch will get burned into your brain and give you nightmares. I think it's hard because on the one hand, it's like, as an American, you don't want to be trying to put your perspective into a conflict that isn't about you. At the same time, our tax dollars are being used to fund Israel. I don't want to do what I see a lot of Americans doing right now, which is telling people to go read and educate themselves while actively spreading misinformation about what's happening over there. Americans, we are so chauvinistic. We can't seem to talk about anything without putting it through our lens and our context. It literally happens every single time there is a conflict anywhere else in the world or an experience that somebody else has in the world. Americans, we run in and go, well, actually, I've just been watching a lot of Israeli creators. I've been watching a lot of Palestinian creators because I want to see what they have to say about it. I'm honestly not that interested in seeing a bunch of Americans talk about problems that they have and projecting it onto Israel and Palestine. It's not only been difficult to watch all the misinformation spreading, all the propaganda, all the lies, it's also been hard watching the genocide apologia. And there's a lot of that going around. A lot of people that are on this app and on Twitter, especially Twitter, because Twitter is not censored in the way TikTok is, of people cheering and being excited and openly celebrating genocide. And the people who are doing that are trying to hide behind the veneer of human rights and freedom, but some people are being just honest about it and straight up, which I guess thanks. I think one of the reasons why it's also really hard to talk about this is because everybody wants to make everything simple narratives. Everybody wants to make everything black and white. They don't want to acknowledge that two things can be true at once, that many things can be true at once. The internet, especially TikTok and Twitter and social media, hates nuance. They want to grab their flag of whatever side they're on and just cheer that. So it makes it really difficult, if you do care about nuance and the truth, to have an honest conversation with people who are not interested in having honest conversations. The attack on Israel was incredibly horrific. I don't encourage people to go watch the videos and the pictures that were posted unless you want to have nightmares for weeks. There actually are a lot of people, and it's very disturbing, that are refusing to condemn Hamas and refusing to acknowledge that Hamas did anything wrong, are actually cheering it. And I feel like this is where a nuance goes to die. You can condemn Hamas for what they did and also believe that Palestinians should be free, that they deserve human dignity, that they deserve to not have to live in an open-air prison, that you don't have to put on them the fact that Hamas was quote-unquote elected, because they were elected in 2006, and the median age for a Palestinian is 17. Why would you put the responsibility of Hamas on a teenager or a child? There are so many children living in Gaza. The Israeli government has cut off food and electricity and water. If you actually care about this, you have to be able to separate the governments from the people. The Russian people right now are not responsible for what Putin has done in Ukraine. A little over a year, I know people are still getting carpet bombed and essayed and unalived, but that was so 2022. Next. That war is still going on. And it would be like saying that the people of Russia, who are just everyday citizens suffering under Putin, are responsible for what is happening in Ukraine. In the same way, the Palestinian people, they are not responsible for the actions of Hamas. Also, and the Israeli citizen, the everyday Israeli citizen, is not responsible for the actions of the right-wing government in Netanyahu. You want to condemn what Israel is doing, the state of Israel, not the Israeli people, the Israeli government. But we also have to be careful. I'm trying to be careful about how I say those things to not get into anti-Semitic territory. Because in the same way that we say we have to keep the context and the history of what's happened to Palestine in mind when we talk about it, we also have to keep in mind the history and the context of Jew hatred and the centuries-long project of trying to wipe their existence off the face of the earth. Because I have seen a disturbing amount of people using straight up World War II Nazi talking points talking about the Israeli people. Some of the people that are acting like they know history are the people that are talking like that. There are people who want Jews off the face of the earth. Anti-Semitism is the oldest bigotry. It's been around since time itself. And I've seen a lot of people under the guise of defending the Palestinian people just regurgitating Nazi talking points against the Jews. And I shouldn't have to say this, but if your defense of the Palestinians' freedom comes from the talking points of early 1930s Germany, then your advocacy is probably not rooted in the liberation of the Palestinian people, but rather the desire to remove Jews from the planet. What the Palestinians have gone through is horrific, and they are the victims in many ways of the Israeli state. It's just dark as fuck to see how some people are using the plight of the Palestinian people in order to justify their anti-Semitism. And this is not new to Jewish people, as I said. Jews have literally been fighting for their existence since the beginning of time, and they have a right to exist in the same way that the Palestinian people deserve to be free and live in dignity and not be oppressed by the Israeli state government. And to say that Jews have a right to exist and Palestinians also have a right to be free shouldn't be controversial, but we do live in hell. With that being said, what the Israeli government is doing is so disgusting, and they are doing it in our name with our tax dollars. Because we support Israel unequivocally, no strings attached. And Netanyahu, like every strong man, whenever an attack happens, they capitalize on it and they use it as a way to consolidate their power. And that's exactly what he's doing. People know that this was the worst attack that has happened on Israel in decades. And a lot of people are mad about that. They're like, what happened? How did you allow this to happen? So like every strong man and wannabe dictator, he's like, oh shit, this looks really bad that I allowed this to happen on my watch. How do I consolidate power? And how do I strike back to show them how tough and strong I am by making sure that I massacre millions of Palestinian children? They have declared all-out war on the Palestinians. They want to wipe them out. And they are stuck there because Egypt has closed its border and is not allowing refugees to go over. So what are they supposed to do? Where are they supposed to go? Because again, Hamas, the terrorist organization that committed this atrocity against Israel, is not the Palestinian people. The Palestinian people are just regular people who have been living in horrific conditions for decades and basically been relegated to an open-air prison because of the Israeli government. And now the Israeli government is just going to go all out. Like, cutting their power off and their water and their food supply is just the beginning of what they are planning to do to the Palestinians. And this is going to be done in our name as Americans with our tax dollars. Not only that, you've got bloodthirsty war hawks all over Congress salivating at the idea of being able to get in a conflict with Iran as well. There are going to be people, there's going to continue to be people that aren't really interested in the human cost of what's happening and the lives, both Israeli and Palestinian, that are being lost. Unfortunately, that is going to continue to be a trend. But if you actually do care about human lives, children, grandmothers, then you should be sad and upset about the attack on Israel by Hamas. You should care just as much about the innocent Palestinians that have been massacred. And you should be very concerned, especially if you're an American who pays taxes in this country, that there is about to be an obliteration of innocent people and children in Gaza. This is asymmetrical. The Palestinian people cannot go up against the Israeli and American government. I know our government doesn't listen to us, but we still should contact our representatives. If you don't know, Google who is my congressperson, who is my senator, and put in your zip code. Tweet at them, email them, call them. Right now, everybody in politics is on the same side, and we need to tell them that we do not want our tax dollars going to murder innocent civilians. Jewish people have a right to exist and defend themselves, and Palestinians have a right to be free. They have a right to be free of this occupation. These two things are both true and should not be hard to say.